Hello everyone and welcome back to another book review. First of all, if you are new here, thank you for watching. I post new book reviews almost every single day, so if that sounds interesting to you, then feel free to stick around. Today I am going to be reviewing an audiobook that I listened to. I'm going to be reviewing Wild New World by Dan Flores, and I'm just holding up the library record of the book just to have something to show, but I did listen to this in an audiobook form, so I do not have the print book to show you. So this book interested me right away because the topic was very ambitious and it's something that I'm very passionate or interested about, and that is the human contact with the natural world in the Americas. And the subtitle of this book is The Epic Story of Animals and People in America. And while this book does cover quite a bit of America, the entire area, the primary focus of this book is on the area that is encompassed currently by the United States and Canada, and it's how humans and animals in this area of the world have interacted through human history. We can tell right away that it's going to be ambitious because we're looking at, what is that, over 10,000 years of history, and that includes the initial arrivals from crossing the land bridge or the ice bridge or whatever it was to get here, to the current governments in place in both the United States and Canada and the way that they interact with the natural world. So this is quite a wide-ranging book, and the audiobook was 16 hours and 30 minutes, at least the version that I listened to, so do be prepared to devote quite a bit of time because the author is trying to cover a wide range of time and a very big subject. I mean, we're talking about a wide variety of animals who had many different interactions with humans throughout 10,000 plus years of time, which is going to lead to quite an ambitious book and quite a bit of content to come through. The audiobook I did enjoy. I like the narrator, I like the style, but overall I would describe this book as very difficult to read because it became very clear that there was a pattern when humans interacted with animals that became very difficult or hard to read for someone like me who enjoys being in nature and doesn't like to see nature abused, for lack of a better word. There is this theme that kind of runs throughout the book where humans interact with the natural world, usually with something that they haven't seen before. This includes the very earliest people who came over to populate and to settle these continents. They were looking at animals that they had not seen in their regions that they had lived in before and how they had to interact with these. And then of course European contact and the way that those individuals interacted with a whole continent full of people and animals that they were not familiar with or had not interacted with before. These people are interacting with these animals, with this natural world they haven't seen, and they either think that the resources that they're seeing are unlimited, they decide that the resources that they're seeing or the nature that they're seeing doesn't deserve to stand around, or the plans that they have for this area are more important than the continued existence of certain species. And there was also at times this view that a species never really could go extinct because in their minds, if God made species, this was particularly with the European conquest or the European contact with the Americas, if God made these species, how could humans wipe them out? They felt like there was this higher power that was going to keep the species on the earth no matter what they were going to do to the planet. They really didn't believe that they had the power in all cases to wipe out these species. And after getting whatever mindset they had that the natural world or these resources or these animals were not able to be entirely killed off, were unlimited, or were worth less than the plans that they had for the region or the area, then humans proceeded to abuse the natural world or the resources, to overhunt, to overconsume, to drive out, to destroy all the natural habitats, and then these animals are lost forever, sometimes accompanied with surprise or regret or shame when we look back and see the ways that we acted. And listening to that story once for one specific animal might be a little upsetting or sad. Having to listen to 16 hours of humans abuse the environment through very clear and deliberate ways, including reading very difficult passages or listening to very difficult passages like poisoning, I believe it was like coyotes and wolves, and the horrible things that these poisons did to these animals that really weren't doing anything outside their natural way of living, became very, very difficult to read. It is very interesting, it was very informative, and I think it's very important, especially if you live in one of these two countries. This is part of the history that we kind of come from, but it is also at times very difficult to listen to because we're just listening to 10,000 years of, and not every single person throughout 10,000 years of human history, of course, was abusing the environment, but the author really does focus on the ways in which we negatively impact the environment, although he does take time to mention people who are interested in conservation or people who learn from their mistakes and realize, hey, let's not do this anymore, or hey, we recognize that we do have the ability to kill off a species and maybe that's not a good thing. So the callous way in which previous generations regarded nature really comes through in this book, and I think for that reason it's kind of important. I definitely found it difficult to read at times, and I also was listening to some of this while taking some beautiful walks through the woods in the northern region of the state that I live in, and it was kind of weird to be listening to all these horrible things while walking through a beautiful natural area, but also knowing that this natural area I was walking through was also impacted by the very things that are being discussed in the audiobook that I am listening to. So even though this audiobook was 16 hours long, almost 17 hours long, the scope is so ambitious that I don't think it was never possible from the start for the author to include every single thing that he wanted to, or also to cover everything in extreme depth. I feel like he went for a very broad overview of the interaction between humans and animals on the North American continent, and not for a very deep exploration of one or two particular topics in this book. So I would say that if anything that you read in this book sounds interesting and you want to do a really thorough deep dive, you're going to have to go elsewhere, but I think you can figure that out by looking at this book and seeing that the author is trying to cover 10,000 years of human history in one book. You're not going to get a super deep dive into any one thing, but it covers a broad topic and allows you to see if anything here is interesting to you, and then to go from there to do your own research and your own explanation. I think overall this was a very important book and a very good book. If you have any interest in the natural world, if you have any interest in seeing the way that humans interacted with animals on the North American continent, I do recommend this book. It is quite expansive, it is quite ambitious, I keep using that word, but I do think that it was interesting enough to be worth giving a listen to. And then if anything in the book sounds so interesting that you want to do a deep dive, you can go from there to find additional resources to continue learning about that topic. Overall though, I really enjoyed this book. I would probably give it a 4-star, and if you were looking for the audiobook, I also enjoyed the audiobook narration of this, so that's something to note. And I think that you should give this a read if anything that I said in this review sounds interesting to you. As always, I love book suggestions, so if you have any book suggestions that are related to this book, I would love to see them in the comments below, or if you have any thoughts or comments on this book, Wild New World by Dan Flores, yourself, then please put that in the comments below too, because I'd love to hear it. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.